All right, well, don't fucking go out there with Alice Cooper and all these people. They'll turn you into bugs or whatever the fuck happened to that guy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Underrated. As usual, we're going to be talking about some films that are under the radar, that just pass most people by, and you know what, we want to talk about them and get right into it. So this week we're going to be talking about John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness, and as usual, my lovely co-hosts are here with me, Ariel Ortiz and Derek McDuff.
Hey, how's it going?
And yeah, so today we're going to get right into it. Little movie, not a little movie actually, came out in 1987, Prince of Darkness, directed and written by John Carpenter. I think he went as Martin Quatermass for when he wrote it, I guess to kind of change it up or something. But yeah, it came out in 1987, budget of $3 million and made $14 million at the box office. So it a fairly successful film, I mean, compared to his other films, but this movie stars Donald Pleasence. He's been in other films with John Carpenter before. There's one I can't really think, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Starman. Starman.
It's there somewhere. It's just, I'll think about it later. But anyways, yeah, they've done other films together. And so this movie's about a priest played by Donald Pleasence, and he gets a couple of quantum physicists to come together to research this giant cylinder with this liquid in it that potentially, well, we end up finding out is a liquid version of Satan. So right there and there, the plot's a little weird. This has been on my list for quite some time. I've been on kind of a John Carpenter binge as of late, and I had a couple movies in mind. I had Christine in mind. I had In the Mouth of Madness, and I was like, well, you know what? I really like Christine, and I really liked In the Mouth of Madness. But I was like, you know what? Let me finish his Apocalypse trilogy with Prince of Darkness. And I just felt like this one was always kind of on the fence with a lot of people, cult wise, reviews wise. I think it has like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah, it's a little divisive. But I want to hear what you guys think of it first.
Before you start, what were the other two Apocalypse movies? I'm
so sorry. The Apocalypse trilogy starts with The Thing, then it's Prince of Darkness, and then it's In the Mouth of Madness.
So
it's a spiritual trilogy.
This?
Yeah, like a spirit. Yeah, like the Three Cornettos trilogy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So this is the second one in the trilogy.
Yeah. For me, it really did feel like a John Carpenter movie, especially aligned with Halloween particularly, because just how the opening felt, it felt very much like Halloween. Yeah, behind you, Alan.
For the listeners out there, there's a visual gag earlier.
It felt very much like Halloween, especially with like the credits and then the music. That did it ever stop not having like a musical cue in the background? Because it definitely did for the first like 20 minutes, like kind of like similar to how, but to a more, I don't want to say aggressive scale than Halloween did, because there's that whole, and I'm sure it was written by John Carpenter himself. The score.
Yeah, he did the music as well. Yeah.
Of course. Which the music was good, but I was just like, this is like lasting a long time with this music. But but it did very much feel like the start with the exposition and stuff like that didn't definitely feel like Halloween, because of how, especially like even shots that are like of people walking, you get a lot of information and about these characters while they're walking to and from places.
The classic Sorkin walk and talk.
Yeah. I just want to like ask one question. Are these students? Please tell me that they're like doctorate students because
Yeah,
they were
they think they
old.
say they're graduate students. Yeah,
Okay,
especially
Yeah.
that one
okay.
dude,
So
like the romantic lead guy. I was like, how old are you, man? You look like you're like fucking 40.
yeah, like at least the main core group of students, they are students. I don't know about
Yeah.
I think the other ones might already be professionals that are already like, tenured or work, at the school and stuff. But it's a very interesting concept of a movie. Definitely a John Carpenter, like of that era. Like with this Halloween, Poltergeist especially gave very much like Poltergeist feels to it, of like possession, and then like being like stuck in like one central like location and things like that.
Well, he didn't do Poltergeist, did he? That was Spielberg, right?
Yeah, he didn't do Poltergeist.
Directed by Spielberg,
Okay.
but it was Toby Hooper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I'm saying like it has that kind of feel of that kind of like era that this movie existed in. Yeah, and it was definitely an interesting story. Kind of leaves it up. I think everything's all good and stuff like that. I really don't think that like there's a looming kind of thing, but maybe he wanted to do a sequel. I don't know. But yeah, it is like this kind of like interesting take on defining like kind of satanic and demonic kind of things. It takes its own like way, and and I appreciate that with like an interestingness of like I don't think the goo never really like quite explained, and I was really hoping that like they reveal a lot to the audience through like these scientists and things like and theologists like researching and cracking down this book and stuff, but none of the information is actually shared among them, like at least what is shown on what is shown to the audience, especially with what the theologist is like translating and stuff like that, and with the symbol, like they kind of make that jump of like, oh, the symbol, it's a marking and stuff like that, and then really I didn't it was kind of like a suspension of belief with the whole like, oh, this bruise, like, and it's like a full on like sickle marking kind of thing, like, oh, this bruise, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna lay down and stuff. But it gets intense. It gets intense especially with the shooting of the water. I was not expecting and how they describe it too,
gun?
like yeah, like a squirt gun. But then they describe it. It's like pinpoint, like they didn't see this water gun shoot into this woman's mouth, but they know, like they describe it as that without seeing it, which is like kind of interesting. Of like, oh, pinpoint of energy. It's just like a pinpoint, a strike, and it's like, well, yeah, it's like it was a stream of water and stuff. But yeah, overall, interesting story. It was a really good throw of the axe for that priest. You got to give him props on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is he the doctor in the original Halloween? Is that who?
Yeah, he's Dr. Loomis.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So he kind of plays like a similar character in this one as well, with that kind of like, he's the one that's like he might not be like the I don't want to say like the specialist in this, but he somewhat is. But I mean, like you kind of get that feel of like he's the one like kind of chasing after this bad, the antagonist, which is like, the Satan, kind of keeping in intact and stuff like that. I was very much, I had a little laugh, but it was kind of like, I had a little laugh with the red hand, the thick prosthetic red hand that was coming through the mirror. I was like, classic. Okay.
They're just going with, trademark registered Satan. Big red.
Yeah, I was really expecting and then I don't know. It's a very weird kind of with the whole broadcasting thing too. That kind of was like a foil of being frustrating to me, because it's like, that there's this message being sent to you guys, but none of you are staying asleep. like you guys should like stay asleep. Don't wake up. Don't wake up. Get the full message and stuff. So
It's
yeah.
the opposite of a fucking Freddy movie. You gotta go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Go to
exactly.
sleep.
But overall enjoyable movie. I don't think it was like Carpenter best. Like I mean, like if you're talking about the Cornetto trilogy, I don't know how the third one is, but this for me is giving off like we're at World's End vibes. Ironically,
I can agree with that. I agree with that a lot. If I were to rank them personally, it would be like, Prince of Darkness at the bottom, In the Mouth of Madness second, and then the masterpiece, The Thing. Easily. Like, but yeah, but what do you think, Derek?
Yeah, no, I dug this movie. I mean, I think that, if Alan, you going into it sight unseen, I was like, did Alan know like that he would be like, oh, this is a movie where it's like all about like religion and science and how they interact? And it's like, that's fucking catnip for me.
I had no idea. I had no idea. I was like, it has Donald Pleasance, and I was like, I'm in. That was it.
But yeah, like
the religion and science like Poltergeist, just kind of like random out there kind of feel, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have that, anybody who's like a longtime listener of this show, like, will know that how fucking hard I like lost my shit for Prometheus when it was all about like, ooh, this is science and this is religion and how do they interact and what does it mean? And this is very much that, but in like a cheesy 80s horror, sci-fi, supernatural thriller type deal. It felt a lot like he had seen John Carpenter was like, this is going to be my version of The Exorcist, because it has a lot of those same themes, how you have the priest in The Exorcist and how he's like a scientific priest, and it's like, okay, well, what does exorcism mean scientifically? And this is kind of trying to find a lot of not hard scientific reasons, but like scientific reasons for like, oh, the devil, and it's of course it's through the 80s science view, like the kind of like the way that Ghostbusters was scientific. It's like, oh, we've got the goo, the stream of goo in Ghostbusters 2 running beneath New York City, and this was like, Satan, he's in a goo cylinder, and it's like, all right, cool, like, but I did enjoy the cheesy 80s of it, also interacting with the like, oh, well, yeah, this is just kind of like this interesting parable about like religion and science and how they interact with each other, and they don't need to be at odds against each other, while also having just all the tropes that you love of a good 80s movie. It is definitely not up to the level of, his masterpiece, as Alan correctly put it, with The Thing, which I think is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. But it's also, I think, a lot better than some other of his movies. Like, if you love Ghosts of Mars, great, but it's not a movie that I'm gonna revisit.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Oh my god. Yeah, I saw that movie, and like when it came out, and I do not remember anything about it. I was like, I'm just sick to Halloween.
But yeah, it's I like that it was a slow burn. Other than Donald Pleasance, I can't really say that the actors are great, but for the most part, I thought their characters.
You gotta
were good,
give props to one guy. You gotta give props to the black dude, though. He
he was great.
Yes, he was. He was
great.
Awesome.
And it was nice to see Victor Wong, who is the kind of the the other side of the coin to Donald Pleasance's priest, as him being the kind of the scientific guy. And him just kind of it's nice to see him in a role that wasn't like trading on, him being an Asian actor. He was just, which is, for the 80s, I thought was pretty progressive and cool. Unfortunately, there is another Asian character that feels like a big stereotype that was my least favorite part of the movie, and all the jokes and stuff that he was making was like, oh man, this is pretty dated.
The girl was Asian. Or was she Filipino? Like, I don't understand.
I think it's just like Derek said. I think it's a dated thing, which is hilarious because I felt the film was pretty diverse. Like, you had a lot of different people in it, but that character, I forgot to say, I want to say Walter, he was just like, I don't know what the fuck. I think the jokes probably landed back in 1987, but that the Jew joke with the Zulu warrior, I was like, fuck, that is whoa. That was dated.
It felt like they sucked all the 80s like dated stuff and out of all the other characters and just put them right into that guy. Like I was just like, when at the end he was alive, I was like, huh, I was kind of hoping you would die.
No, but then also like he runs away like at the first sign of like he could escape, and I really thought like I was not gonna put it past him. I was not gonna be surprised if he just ran off, didn't tell anybody, just went back or whatever, like, you know. And I was really surprised that he did get the cops. Okay, and probably maybe he didn't though too. Maybe the other people called the cops or whatever. But yeah.
But yeah, I did enjoy also the different genre elements that all kind of got mixed in, and I think that, you know, Carpenter is somebody who's done this with the thing where it is, you know, a horror movie, but it's also definitely got some sci-fi in it, and this one is a horror movie, but then you have the like we're talking about the dreams that are actually like recorded messages from the future, and you have such a good payoff with that in the end, and you know, I really love obviously when you kind of take a little bit from this genre and take a little bit from this genre. It felt like a really good grab bag of different 80s genre tropes from all kinds of different, like, ooh, here's horror sci-fi, and here's horror like religious stuff, and here's horror the stuff with the Ghostbusters, like with the goo, and yeah, it was a really good time. This is not a movie, you know, that I would have sought out on my own. So I'm really glad that you had us watch this one and recommend it, because of all the 80s Carpenter stuff that I would watch, you know, I would probably even watch something like Starman ahead of this. So I'm really glad I got a chance to check it out here.
You know, it kind of gets vibes of another movie that we discussed on here of like, but kind of doing it from the start of like Sunshine. You know how like it turned into that horror movie, but there's like a science horror like movie before that. I think like this kind of like melded, kind of like in its own way, like melded those two sides of that movie together a little bit, maybe like cohesively, in my opinion, but maybe not at the quality, but melded those two halves of that movie. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of like what I kind of get feels of, like, you know.
And I did really like the final girl in this. She was one of the young actors that I thought was more solid, at least, than a lot of the other young actors. Other than was it Sully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Even though he's still bald, I was like, wait a minute, that's fucking Sully. And then
Which one's Sully?
Also, yeah, he's the bald guy. He's the student that's the bald guy.
Like, he gets stabbed in the eye. He got stabbed in the eye.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's why I'm like, I don't remember. He's the one that gets like squirted glass. Or no, right? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you have those good slasher tropes. They're kind of getting taken out one after the other. But you know, the quote unquote slasher in this was just kind of like the infection, and they're each kind of like coming under this, and then you have they're all trapped in the house. You've got that classic like, oh, you can't leave this place because otherwise fucking Alice Cooper is outside.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Was it Alice Cooper?
That was fucking Alice, because I saw the opening credits. I was like, Alice fucking Cooper.
It was Alice Cooper. Okay, all right. I was like,
reminded me of another movie we talked about, which is another 80s movie, another cheesy 80s movie, which was Runaway, which had Gene Simmons as the like bad guy, because they were just both have these like great, you know, looks that they do. Obviously Cooper's role is a lot smaller in this, but he was still able to give that like spooky stage look that he had. And it's like, all right, well, don't fucking go out there with Alice Cooper and all these people. They'll turn you into bugs or whatever the fuck happened to that guy. So some really creative like deaths and kills in the ways that you would see people get kind of like taken apart. I thought the stuff with the mirror at the end was so cool when she gets sucked into that mirror dimension, and that means cool and ambiguous. It was like, oh, was this always going to happen? Was that always her, or did it change? Like, now it's still in the far off year of 1999, which I thought was the funniest shit in the world.
Which, like, why did they have to list it the year 1999? Is like, I guess to like, because like it would take,
that's how they talk in the future.
Because
Ariel.
Like they release a number each time that there was like a dream. Like the first dream was like in the year 1, and then the second one was in the year 19, and then and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so some really cool stuff. So all in all, I think, just a really fun, goofy 80s, just kind of, and in a way that you can't really, I feel like, make a lot of horror movies like this anymore, where there is a lot of just like build up before they're laying the tracks and letting you know what's going on, would start with like a cold open of like, somebody getting attacked or something. And this kind of just like, all right, here's the story. You're just gonna go on your own pace, and I did appreciate that. But Alan, this is your pick. You haven't really spoken too much on it. What did you have to say about it?
Well, it was really because I had recently rewatched They Live, and then I watched Christine, and then I had seen In the Mouth of Madness, and that had been on my list for a while to do on the show, and I was kind of popular enough to you can't really get away with, and then Christine, I was kind of like.
I feel like those are underrated. People like those movies a lot. People talk about those movies all the time.
I mean, Christine, it's a Stephen King adaptation, so I was like, okay, gotta knock it out. And then it kind of came down to In the Mouth of Madness or Prince of Darkness, and I was like, well, In the Mouth of Madness kind of has a bigger following, so I was like, I'll go with Prince of Darkness. I'll be honest, I enjoyed the film. It was cool. I thought it was just like you guys were saying, there's a lot of buildup, and I think I had a different mindset going in. I thought I was expecting a little bit more. I don't know. I guess I was expecting a little bit more Carpenter, maybe because I was seeing so many of his movies recently, where a lot of shit goes on.
Actiony, yeah, actiony.
Yeah, and I dug it though. Like I dug it. I think it is probably going to be one of my least favorites. I'm not trying to like throw it under the bus or anything. But I mean, there's other bangers, of course, that we have already said. But I dug it. I like that they were trying to go for like a religion science thing, and I really did appreciate the slow burn. That's just the only thing I have this weird thing with slow burns is that I love them, but the anticipation builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. Where I go, oh man, this better fucking knock it out of the park, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I felt. It teased too much. I felt like I know it was probably a lot of less is more, but I just wanted a little bit more. I just wanted a little bit more because, we've seen what John Carpenter can do with suspense. I mean, Halloween is easily one of the greatest films of all time, and it's known for its suspense and that big final climax. And then you have the thing where he just fucking throws it at you. It just keeps giving you more and more and more, and just turns up, the amp passing 11. And then within the Mouth of Madness, I felt like that was a little bit more balanced, where I had a bit of a slow start, but it had like a creeping feeling to it. It felt very Stephen King-ish in that sense, and then it went really kind of H.P. Lovecraft around the end. But this one, I was kind of like, okay, I felt like he wanted to really slow it down, and I think he was probably trying to do something a little bit more slow pace, where he's like, okay, you guys know me for this and this, Salt Precinct 13, They Live, and etc. And I did read a little bit behind it where some people think it's like a parable of like the AIDS epidemic that was happening at the time, and that even the Asian character that we were kind of discussing about, that like he was literally locked. Yeah, the comments, and that he's locked in a closet almost, and like women are there, like holding him in, and they're like, there's a article saying that like, oh, it's that it was a parable in like what was going on at the time. So I was like, okay, I see that. I think this is one of those movies where I thought maybe I hyped myself up a little too much going into it, because I was like, man, I love Carpenter and stuff. So hearing you guys talk about it a little bit more is kind of building a little bit more perspective for me, where I'm like, I did enjoy it. I really dug it. The acting was cheesy as hell. Donald Pleasance was great. I felt like the main romantic male lead was really trying to be like Tom Atkins from the time. Tom Atkins fucking absolutely killed it. Halloween 3 was really big in the 80s. Same thing, big old mustache. He sleeps with somebody way younger. And
I was like, those age gaps make me a little uncomfortable. Like, how old is this guy supposed to be? How old is this girl?
They looked about the same age, didn't they?
Oh, they did. I mean, to me, I felt like this guy was like 40 and she was like 20. Of.
Yeah, kind of. No, go watch Halloween 3, and you'll see how fucking big the discrepancy is of like mustache clad dude is probably hitting 50 almost, and the girl is barely 19, maybe. but that's another underrated movie for another day. But yeah, I dug it. I think it was one of those movies you kind of have to sit with. I felt like I just needed a little bit more. I know it was my
Mhm.
pick, and I went in
Yeah.
blind, but I
Mm.
was like, man, I just want more. I love the concepts and I love the ideas he was trying to go for,
Mm.
and I felt other films did it a little bit better, like Event Horizon, and like you were saying, Ariel. If you were to pair
Sunshine.
them up, yeah,
Mhm.
Sunshine. Like if you were to pair them up,
Mhm.
I think you can watch Prince of Darkness like as a bundle with
Mhm.
Sunshine, or you can watch Prince of Darkness with Event Horizon.
Mm.
And if you really want to just fucking enjoy your night, like really just have a ball of the time, just watch Sunshine and Event Horizon.
Well, Alan, you're talking a lot about, how this movie is kind of like Carpenter, like very Carpenter-esque. And one thing I was thinking of is, with The Thing, it's heralded as a classic now, but at the time, like audiences and critics didn't like it. Took a good
Mhm.
amount of time for people to really come around to that movie. And kind of as a result of it being, getting its initial reputation, that's why he had to go make Starman a very kind of like light and nice, fun, quote unquote, alien movie. A very, not a movie you would think of as a Carpenter movie, like a sweet movie with Jeff Bridges romance alien movie. But then I think around, because this came out about 5 years after The Thing, or maybe a little bit more, and it feels like this is the time when people maybe are starting to reassess it. It's been a little bit of time, and now he's like, okay, I can go back to the well. I can start doing again the thing that I've been known for, The Thing, like kind of do this spiritual follow up to The Thing. And now that and he's gonna really double down. He's like, it's the one for you, one for me. So he's like, I did The Thing, that was for me. I did Starman, that was for you guys, and now I'm back to doing the Prince of Darkness, which is for me. And then I don't know, what came in between this and if there was another one for them. But then, he finished off did his last one for me when he did In the Mouth of Madness. So that was just something I was thinking about a lot as I was watching this.
Totally,
Yeah.
I can totally see that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I feel like Carpenter is definitely a director who loves to do his thing, and I do agree that I think it's a lot of like I do one for you, I do one for me, because
Hmm.
I felt like Halloween was very I'm doing one for you. It's never
Hmm.
been for him because as amazing as that film is, even just seeing like documentaries about the making of Halloween, he always just kind of seems like he's like, yeah, I fucking did it, and like he doesn't like making his claim to fame. Like I feel like he has other projects that he's like, I love doing that much more than Halloween. And
Hmm.
I'm pretty, there's a whole process to it. You can go watch it on Netflix, movies that made us kind of thing,
Mhm.
and they go into it for
Yeah.
Halloween. But yeah, I felt like Prince of Darkness and Mouth of Madness, especially The Thing, were films where he was like, "This is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want to put in." He did the. I don't think he did the music for The Thing, but like when he puts it as all, I'm pretty sure he did put his all as much as he can into Halloween. I mean, masterpiece, and I know Deborah Hill was probably a big part of that as well. Big shout out to her. But I feel like Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness were truly films that he's like, I want to do. Like, this is what I
Hmm.
want to do. This is what I want to throw out. And They Live as well. I feel like They Live was a big kind of like Twilight Zone-y kind of film. And it just, the message is pretty obvious in that film. But yeah, Prince of Darkness, I feel like he was definitely trying to like do something different. He was really trying to like prove his chops as a filmmaker, and the music was fantastic. Like he's a great musician. I still listen to his music nowadays. He's had 3 albums. Yeah, now, they escape me for the moment, but Lost Themes. All 3 of them are absolute bangers, and all of them should be themes for so many films in their own right. So I feel when he wants to do something, he puts it as all, and he really gives it. Especially since he wrote this one. He wrote this one, so yeah. There's I feel like there's a certain appreciation for it. You have to give into it. I feel like some directors they go and doing what they want to do, and even if it doesn't hit that high that you really want because of other films that they've made before, there's still an appreciation to it because you know they did it from the heart and they were like, I want her to do this for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in that,
Yeah, it feels like a quintessential cult classic. Like if you were to describe somebody like what's like a cult classic from the 80s look like, where it's just kind of like grungy and dirty and fucking weird and it's got all these different ideas and just all this mix of different stuff, and it's a movie that's really under the radar and just got kind of some great performances and some really not good performances, and there's things in it that are really dated. Like all of that I feel like are the components of a quote unquote cult classic that might not hit like might not be a quintessential classic like The Thing, but it's still a movie that I think is like, especially if you're like somebody who's like, I'm a completionist, I want to go back and watch all these weird things that came out in the 80s that kind of defined the genre. I think like this is on the checklist.
Yeah. And I feel going back to something that you said earlier, Alan, of like it kind of feeling like the movie kind of were expecting something or expecting more. I think I was too, especially with the whole like resolution of like the Antichrist in a way, I guess you could say. Like I was very much expecting like like a Rosemary's Babies situation there, especially with like the girl essentially becoming pregnant, but I guess like it gets like reabsorbed into her. But I was really like thinking like, oh, it's like pregnant and then it's like feeding off of her, and it wasn't until like she went back flat stomach where I was thinking like, oh, and then now the baby's like it got delivered or whatever like that, and then like this is like gonna be the like an Antichrist kind of figure. But to kind of turn that on its head and in a way of like, oh no, it just like the liquid built up in her. I think that they described it, and then it got reabsorbed in her, and then she like metamorphosed kind of like into being that was of the fly that came before the fly, in a way. And so that was an interesting take, and I think that it might have hit a bit better if it went in that direction of like a Rosemary Baby kind of situation. You might have been able to get a little bit more bloodier and like intense if you like kind of include like a delivery kind of scene in that kind of way. And then you have these like two women who are like, become kind of like midwife kind of figures and taking that kind of imagery away in a way and stuff like that. But I do find it interesting, like I do see it if it was meant for that interpretation or metaphor for AIDS, especially with like, I don't know, it's possible that the Asian guy was possibly why he acts that way, all kind of more like anti-feminist of kind of like trying to like hide his sexuality in a way. Maybe you could kind of see that way as well. And yeah, like looking back on that, you could interpret the movie a completely different direction with that too. So yeah, it is definitely, it felt like the way that you guys are saying of like a very original idea from Carpenter, and like feeling like like he had like a story to tell, and I think he did it his way in a way, and so yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Alan, so this is why I'm always kind of afraid to do a pick blind, because I'm like, what if I don't like it? Not saying that that you didn't like this, it was bad or anything, but I'm always like, because I was thinking about doing that for when we have come up for a miniseries, and I like was like, I'm gonna watch it first, and I'm like, I'm really glad I watched this because I did not like that movie at all. So I'm always like, I think that's why I did it once. And I worked out okay, but I'm always a little cautious when it comes to just like jumping in blind and to making these picks. So I'm always curious to see when you do it, because you've had pretty good luck in the past. I feel like with just like having some really good bangers without a sight unseen. But I think this one maybe didn't hit the same way as we were expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, again, I like, I guess I'm a gambling man in the essence, as I like to just kind of go in with like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. My expectations are, because I felt like that when because again, when I was watching a couple movies past couple weeks, I was like, I really want to do Carpenter really bad, and I was like, I'll do Christine, I'll do Math Madness and stuff, and I was like, damn, those are all great, but I was like, you know what? Let's go one more time. Let's go all in. And Yeah, it's not my favorite, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. It's a great film to discuss. And I felt with like Christine when I finished it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I really enjoyed it. That one I felt would have been much more. It's very much different to what I think a lot of people would have thought of. I think we all would have walked in watching that film with specific expectations because when I finished it, I was like, wow, that was not what I expected. You know, you think of Christine as like killer haunted car. It's a Goosebumps episode. It writes itself. But when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is way fucking different than what I thought. Like, it is not that whatsoever. Yeah, there's some killer car sequences, but there's a lot more to it where I was like, yeah, this could have been it could have really gone one way or the other. So I went with this one because I was kind of like, you know what? Fuck it, man. This feels way more of like a wild card because even in the community, it still feels like it's kind of down there compared to the other Carpenter films. But I dug it. I enjoyed it. You know, I like the discussion we've had, and yeah, sometimes they're not all bangers, but I love doing going in blind. And I think also too, I guess it's kind of the way of when like I don't know. I guess it's also a question to pose for everybody, you guys and the listeners. I always kind of think about this a lot. When you go into a film, do you go into a film like, let's say, you know, whatever's out right now? Like last night, me and Ariel went to go see Black Phone, and I had expectations about it. And I said, "Oh, okay, well, it's Joe Hill. I love Joe Hill's writing, and you know, it's based on one of his short stories." And I was like, I have certain expectations for it. And I walked out and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, cool. But it didn't hit what I wanted. Like it was a fantastic film. It's really good. Go out and watch it. But there was just one little things where I was like, this could have been better. This could have been better. But I feel like a lot of people that go into films nowadays go into films wanting to be disappointed. Like I feel like with this one, I didn't want to go in. I just went in blind. And I think sometimes going in blind, again, it's a wild card, so you don't know what's going to happen. I didn't see any trailers. All I knew is Donald Pleasance, John Carpenter, part of the Apocalypse trilogy. So when you guys go watch a movie, what expectations do you typically have? Do you go, I want to have a good time. I want to enjoy this. Or do you just go, man, the trailer looked kind of dog shit. I guess I'll fucking watch it.
It depends for me. I feel like there's some things that like I can't help myself from having like not I don't want to say an expectation, but like an excitement for, and that comes from the Marvel movies. But even with me like watching all these theory videos and stuff like that, I don't mind that, you know, it takes a different direction because like it still brings me excitement and stuff like that. And then yeah, overall, I don't really have too many expectations. Like I go in not blind. Like I watch trailers, but you know, trailers usually don't, unless it's like a really clearly bad movie, and they don't like affect me like in my enjoyment of the movie and stuff like that, or like affect my expectation. For me, watching a movie, and it isn't until I'm in the world and experiencing the movie itself where I start to form opinions. And yeah, that's how I approach movies, and I think that for me that makes movies overall a lot more enjoyable. I'm not really like a very critic driven kind of person when it comes to movies. I just like it, whether it takes a lot to take me out of a movie. It has to be like really bad writing, and not the point of like making it, you know, making it funny because of the bad writing. It has to be like really bad writing, like famously, at least for myself, personally famously, like for me, the worst movie in the like that I've ever watched is Fanforstic, and because that kind of drove me to to like rewrite the movie in my head, like from the 3-minute walk from walking out of the theater into the car to like this is how the movie should have gone or something like that, you know. So yeah, for me, don't take much stride in myself because, you know, I'm not a critic. I just find enjoyment in movies and overall, and I think that's what the pureness of movies should be. It should be just don't take yourself seriously. Like, you know, just enjoy a movie and stuff like that. And I did enjoy this movie. It has its weird points, but that's like part of the charm, and you just have to, I guess, find the charm in every movie and you'll enjoy it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're really hitting on something, Alan, when you're talking about you think that a lot of people go into movies not wanting to enjoy them, and I think that's really a big result of just kind of the YouTube age, the internet age that we live in, where there's things like honest trailer, or not even honest trailers, stuff like movie sins, where it's just like there's so many. Yeah, fucking so many people just want to just tear movies apart. They're like, well, the plot holes, and this didn't make sense, and this didn't make sense. And, you know, it's like you're saying, Ariel, just fucking go in and enjoy a movie. And I try to go in with as few expectations as possible, which is kind of impossible sometimes. And sometimes, you know, I do go in with really high expectations for a movie, for something I'm really excited for. Like, I watched Prey last night, and it fucking delivered. It was fucking great. I loved everything about it. It felt exactly what I'd wanted to see in a Predator movie in a way that hasn't been done since the 80s. And, you know, I try to avoid trailers as much as I can. And, you know, I do think sometimes, though, movies, you know, the expectations will really affect the way you watch a film, because I try to go in as clean slate as possible. I will be excited about movies sometimes. A good example of one is when I saw Jurassic World Dominion. Jurassic Park 1 is one of my favorite movies of all time. I even like the first Jurassic World. And the trailers for this movie, because I try not to watch trailers, but sometimes it's just fucking impossible to get away. You can't watch a Burger King commercial or a fucking, like, without seeing a Tyrannosaurus Rex show up. And I was really excited for that. And the movie did not deliver on any of the things that look so fucking good from the trailers. But I still was like, you know what? I'm going to enjoy this movie as a cool throw. It's not a good movie, but I'm still going to have fun with it for what it is. It's still a fun fucking monster movie with these characters that I love, and I had a good time with it. And probably the same thing with people are tearing Thor apart, Thor 4. Because, yeah, I love Thor. I love Taika Waititi. And it's not as good as Thor 3. If I hold it to the expectations that I had going in, it's not what I wanted. But is it still a good movie? Yes, it's still enjoyable. And I've been doing a thing, too, recently, where I'm just going with a group of friends and just kind of seeing these smaller indie movies that there's none really released trailers. I know almost next to nothing. Like, I saw this movie a couple weeks ago called Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I had no idea what this was. I just knew it was about fashion, and it was about Paris. And I went in.
It looks like a fun movie.
It is so goddamn good. This movie, I was delightful, all right? It was like, you know, the way people are always talking about, like, Paddington and shit like that. Like, oh, it just being such
very
a
much
warm...
Paddington feel. Mm-hmm.
And it really was. I didn't know anything about it, so I had no expectations going in, and it warmed my heart so much. And I think with this movie, too, I think the reason that I'm maybe, you know, I had a really, really good time with it, maybe more than you guys, I don't know, is because I didn't have any. I'm not a big John Carpenter guy like you, Alan. I didn't like hold to these high, you know, standards. Like, I love The Thing, you know, but I like Halloween, but I'm not even a huge Halloween guy. So I was like, all right, it's gonna be cheaty, 80s movie. It's gonna have some weird stuff in it, and that's what I got. I got exactly what I kind of went in with, my not low expectations, but tempered expectations. And I do think that can make a lot of difference. And it is something that is, you know, hard to control, your expectations or your, you know, anticipation of a movie. And it is something that vastly affects it. And I think it is something that will, you know, does affect the critical scores and the box office returns and all of these other things for a movie. You know, Top Gun, I'm just giving all these examples, but that's another one. People were that's a movie that I enjoyed, and if I had just gone in and watched that movie blind, I think I would have liked it a lot more. than I did, but it's been just hyped and hyped and hyped and hyped all summer. I finally saw it. I was like, that was a fun movie. It didn't live up to the hype though. So this hype machine that is created by the studios and by just the general public and everything is definitely a double-edged sword. Where sometimes it can be really good and it can drive people to go see the movies, but sometimes it can really sour your experience on a movie. And I think that you kind of have to go in, and I'm not saying like turn your brain off, but kind of go in and enjoy a movie for what it is and just kind of be like, this is the experience that I'm having. This Jurassic Park movie is not the Jurassic Park film that I wanted to see, but I'm going to like it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like I try and go in, like with this one, like I said, I enjoyed Christine and In the Mouth of Madness much more, but I still went in this going, it's a John Carpenter film and I'm still going to dig it. Even if I'm not like, oh my God, it's my favorite. I'm like, I still dug it for what it is. And just like when we went to go see Black Phone last night, I had expectations, but I was like, enjoy what, instead of nitpicking, take the things you love about it. Like there was a lot of great scenes in Black Phone where I was like, oh shit, that was terrifying. That was emotionally raw, et cetera, et cetera. So when I walked out of it, I was still like, I still felt like I got my worth out of it. I just feel like if I were to show this film to just like a random person, especially with like how you're saying where now it's kind of like, let's talk the fucking shit out of all these movies nowadays. They easily would have been like, damn, this movie's slow and it's boring and it's fucking cheesy and da 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 da. They would go with certain expectations, or not expectations, but they would immediately just want to destroy it. And one thing that I kind of criticize a lot of people about is I'm like, okay, you're going in with that expectation, or you're going in with like, this movie's going to suck. You saw the trailer. Why are you watching it? And it was kind of a discussion that Ariel and I had last night where a buddy of ours, Fred, was like, oh man, I love The Son of the Mask. He was fucking loving the show. That I don't know, he gets into these weird, wild ideas. And he was like, have you seen it? And I was like, I refuse to watch it. I don't want to watch it because if the trailer looks like shit, then I'm not going to have a good time. And why am I going to spend my time or waste my time? Kind of thing. So I kind of beg the question for a lot of people out there listening. Like, if you see the trailer and it looks like shit to you, why do you have to go see it? And then just walk out of it with those expectations of like, it looked like dog shit. I saw dog shit. It is dog shit. Kind of thing. That's my only kind of criticism with, I guess, movie going. I kind of went on like a random rant. But this movie just kind of made me think about that when I was watching it throughout, where I was like, God, I can't imagine what some people would think about it. Not everybody, but just some specific people, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like I don't personally, I've never really gone on hype trains, specifically Avatar.
Talking about the blue people, right?
Yeah, dancing with Smurfs.
Okay.
But yeah, like I never really like it was getting big hype. But I still went in it just like kind of calmly and stuff like that. And yeah, like it's dancing with Smurfs. It's okay. I don't get the hype of it, especially like it just like it astounds me with how like even people are like so hyped for the second one and the third one. It's like, okay, you could enjoy your thing. I enjoy them. Like I enjoy it for what it is, but it's like it always surprises me with it being the top grossing movie of all time. But yeah.
On the flip side of that too, I think the whole James Cameron thing is, like for example, Titanic. That's a movie I went back on. I looked when I had it on Letterboxd. I had it like 3 stars because I think I was in that mindset of like, oh my god, like Avatar was the number movie of all time. It's not that great. Titanic was before that, and it just won all the Oscars. James Cameron, so fucking annoying, like just all this stuff. He's like, I'm the king of the world, and just like it's so. I was caught up in the negativity of it. It's just like everybody loving this movie, and it had a big backlash. And then I went and rewatched it for another podcast I was on, and just watching it as a
Titanic
movie.
or Avatar?
Titanic.
Okay.
And just watching Titanic as a movie, I was like, this movie's fucking great.
Yeah, Titanic is great.
And when I was able to, well, that's what I'm saying. Like all this
Yeah.
other stuff was affecting me and my perception of the movie and my remembrance of it. And then when I just went and watched it, it's so fucking good. It's almost perfect. If it wasn't, I fucking hate that last scene where she throws it in the ocean. But like other than that, it's a fucking banger of a movie. And and it's impossible to keep your prejudices and your perceptions out of watching a film sometimes. And sometimes that can be a very negative thing, like affect you negatively watching movies. Sometimes you can elevate it, and sometimes you can push it down. So it's really interesting to see the way that works, I think.
I agree with you with that. I totally agree with you with that, because I have fallen for that, like the I guess the negative hype, like you were saying, like Top Gun, Maverick. I've never seen the original Top Gun, and it's one of those movies where I was like, I'll get to it one day. I'm not in a rush, and it's not because I think it's not going to be good. It's just I'm like, I just don't want to watch it right now. Like I'll get to it one day, and that's fine. But yeah, I totally get you about how you go in with the mindset as well. So I guess that kind of answers my question. Is I feel like, yeah, I guess people just go into a movie just hoping to be disappointed and hoping that that's what it's like now with like Marvel. Marvel's been king as of recent for a while now, and now it's kind of being the cool thing to be like, fuck these Marvel movies, fuck the shows, fuck this, and it's kind of like now becoming that negative hype. It's kind of what happens with horror franchises. I mean, to kind of touch back on to the horror. Paranormal Activity. There's like fucking so many of them. The first one was iconic from when it came out, and then the second one came out, and I felt that one was really fucking good. It was superior to the first. But then all these sequels came out. Today they just announced another Saw. And I'm like,
that's what I was about to say.
Who else wants to see these? Like, I felt like Saw had great hype in the late 2000s. The first three were really good, and they were solid. But now it's like, okay, they keep bringing them out, bringing them out. I understand that type of negative hype where you're like, please stop. Like, we're done with this. And there's and people just love to get into that. Oh my God, they're making another one. I can't wait to go watch this and shit on it. And I'm like, why bother then? Just don't go watch it. Go something else. Go watch something else.
Yeah, you know what's the purest, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't want to say unfortunately, but the purest franchise, I think, is the Fast and Furious movies, because they know what they are. The audience knows what they are. They just watch it. And it's like they're not incredible movies, of course. But it's just that's like, I think, is like the series of movies, fandom, whatever you want to call it, that is the most pure, I think, of like things, like, because like you could shit on it, but they shit on it, but it's like in a fun way. It's like a knowing way. Like they're going to fucking space. Like it's just like the ridiculousness they embrace, and I think that moviegoers need to be like that. Even in like critical movies, like just enjoy it. Just find that pure joy of movie, and I really think that's like the purest kind of like audience is that franchise.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I love doing this show, is because I want to go into a movie liking a movie and want to re-examine all of these movies that, because of a certain perception, because of a certain outlook, because it might be dated, or it might have been ahead of its time, or it might have just not hit in the right way, going re-examining it and saying, well, because of all these factors, this movie doesn't get the credit it deserves, and we're going to go in and re-examine it and say, hey, it deserves a second look. This is actually why it's great. And so that's why I love coming on here every other week with you guys and talking about a movie like that.
Absolutely. But any final thoughts?
No, I think go into it just like we've been saying, just to enjoy a movie. Yeah.
Yep. Seconded from me.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate everybody listening. I hope you guys go and listening to the show with a good mindset as well. I hope we entertain you, and I hope you guys like the discussion, and I hope you guys appreciate it. I know sometimes we go on these tangents, but I feel like that's the best part because, we're talking about a film and then we kind of go on a tangent that's part of it. And I feel that's like the best because it kind of sparks even more discussion and hopefully helps you or makes you critically think. And maybe you want to talk about it with your friends or family, whatever. I'm just happy that we're here doing it just like Derek said. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And now the shameless plugs. Go ahead, guys.
As always, I host a podcast called You've Never Seen ? Where I discuss films that I myself have never seen, or my guest has never seen, but is considered a movie of pop culture cinematic history. So yeah, go and check out that. That comes out on the first of every month. And it's a fun little ditty.
Yep, and then we've also got a Patreon. So if you guys want to check us out on patreon.com/undercastcompany, we have some exclusive episodes for our Undercast Film Club there. We're always adding new ones. I've got a few ideas that I want to throw out. So you might be guys seeing a couple more episodes of that. Sometimes I put up the episodes of Underrated early there, so you guys can get those sometimes as much as a week in advance or more. And then we've, of course, got our Instagram. I've got my other show, Gateway episodes. Speaking of Patreon, where once we hit our Patreon goal, I'll start to release Season 2 of my TV podcast, Gateway episodes. I'm currently recording that and working on that. And as far as this show goes, we also are going to be kicking off after this. This was a earlier movie than we usually talk about. I feel like most of the films we talked about have been from the 21st century. So with that in mind, our next mini-series that we're doing is going to be called The Vintage Collection, where each of the three of us are going to be picking a movie from before 1970, so pre-golden age of Hollywood, and talking about these movies from the past that are underrated. So I went a little bit into the past with this one in the 80s. We're going even further back, so we are picking those right now. So get ready to get in the time machine and listen to us talk about some older, maybe forgotten films that are going to be starting pretty soon.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that. I have to figure out because my favorite old movies are from the 80s, so now I'm like, all right, I have to go even further back. So I'm like, all right, how am I going to figure this out?
It's been a challenge for me too. I'm like, oh yeah, and a lot of the older stuff that I like is stuff that's all really popular. So I'm like, definitely delving into some things that have been on my Letterboxd list for a while that are maybe a little bit more less respected, or for definitely stuff that has been forgotten. Maybe some stuff that's maybe only represented in the Criterion Collection or something like that. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. But check any updates.
I was raised on these movies.
I mean, yeah, me too.
Oh no! I was raised on like 1920s, 30s, 40s movies.
Yeah. So Ariel has a cool pick that I'm really excited for. So, but yeah. So any information about that, just follow us on all our socials, Undercast Company, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. But until then, I will see you guys later.
Bye. Thanks for being amazing.
Take it easy, everybody. Have a good one.